Do I give a little warning? A little warning that I'm a little tipsy?
A little warning that you're just maybe a little tipsy?
Listen, I am officially a drunk Hispanic gay theater kid. That's what we're dealing with today.
And honestly, a good energy for you to have coming into this episode.
Woo! I feel like we've been low energy lately, and like I'm here, etc., etc. Hey, do you want to talk about Criminal Minds in our podcast format? This podcast reels up.
Jay, I would love to talk about Criminal Minds, the show, season 1, episode 19, Machismo.
Woo! No.
That intro gets more scattered but more fun every time that we do it.
Christ,
this time, I feel like since you didn't mention that my name is B, I should be the one to mention that my name is B.
Oh, and my name is James.
Yeah. I said your part, don't worry. I usually introduce you.
I'll be honest, I wasn't listening.
Fuck you. I love that you are continuing to drink champagne as we are going into this episode.
I'm sorry.
You are already more than a little tipsy. So okay. True.
Here we go. Season 1, episode 19, Machismo.
Yeah.
They never define Machismo, which I think is really interesting. Machismo.
I say it in the white person way. You can say it correctly. I'll say it in the white person way.
I mean, it really depends. Like, I'm Cuban. I'm specifically Miami Cuban. So the way that I say things is not the same as the way people from Mexico say them. I would say machismo, but he says, like, machismo.
Yeah.
He does the ch. I do a K for that. I don't want to paint all Hispanic people as a monolith like this show tends to do. Miami Cuban is very specific. I did not grow up in the Miami you see in movies. You know, like that's like not a thing.
Yeah.
Miami Beach, whatever. You know. But the culture, it is very like family based.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's less of that like machismo, less of that because it is still like an American culture, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Hispanic culture as a generalization tends to be very matriarchal. But not like yes, men have the power, right? In Hispanic, Latin American, whatever culture. Men are the, the ones who usually have jobs, the one who brings home the money, the one who makes the final say, but they are very much influenced by their wives, by their mothers, like every kind of Hispanic family has like the matriarch who's like the oldest woman of the family.
Yeah.
You have your like head abuela, so it's like one of those, it's a really, I think, complex culture because it is very patriarchal. Men are in charge. Like it's a thing in, at least for Cubans that, sons can do no wrong. A son can fuck up 1,000,000 times and never be in the wrong. Whereas a daughter could be absolutely perfect and still get shit on because she's not doing enough, but at the same time, again, matriarchal, it's about the women, and I think, to skip ahead a little bit, the Mexican proverb that say at the end, right, the house does not rest upon the ground but on a woman, is a Hispanic thing. Like women are homemakers, like, and as an American in America, saying like women are homemakers, saying that a woman's power is in the house, it's not great. I mean, it's not great anywhere, right? But like in Hispanic cultures, it's almost like reverential. Like it's a thing of honor to be, the woman is really the head of the household. Everyone goes to their mother for advice, So I thought it was interesting in this episode that they named it Machismo, and it's all about Machismo, but it's still about women at the same time, and like, if you don't know, Machismo, it's like swag. I don't know. I don't know how to define it. I don't know that I didn't write down like the dictionary definition of it, but it's basically just like men are men and they're gonna flirt with women and they're going to be sexual and they're gonna be aggressive and they're gonna take what they want without asking and yada yada. That's not like machismo, like open shirt, hairy chest, drinking a beer. Hey, mommy, where you going? Hey, come back. Like that's very like machismo, you know. God, I'm gonna have my fucking Miami accent this whole episode. Like it never comes out except when I'm drunk and when I'm very emotional and when I'm talking about Hispanic things. And here we are, all three at once.
I
The fucking
can't
like
wait.
triforce of my fucking Miami nonsense. Oh God. Um. Yeah. So I
This
just.
episode.
Yeah. I mean, this episode is terrible. It's a shit show. I got angry again and again and again about so many
It's a
different
shit
things.
show, but it almost says something very interesting and
Yeah.
then doesn't. And I'm so upset that it didn't go that little step further to say something
Yeah,
interesting.
I think, and I also think this episode is very much a product of 2006.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
I
Oh,
think that,
maybe it is.
I just want to give, I guess, not a trigger warning, but like a content warning, right? That we're gonna use
Yeah.
some outdated terms for trans people.
Uh-huh.
They're sexist in a very casual, I don't even know I'm being sexist way. You
Also, they
know,
talk in a very cavalier manner about sexual assault.
yes.
I want to
So
just like
yeah,
give a warning for that up
yeah.
top because they
I yeah, like
yeah,
there is a lot to say about this episode and they say a lot in this episode and yet it somehow manages to fall short of any like actual we should
meaning.
talk about rape, we should talk about, you know, the different ways different cultures view masculinity, view womanhood, etc., etc. They like don't actually do that. They just like mention it's like a thing they should talk about.
They're like, we should remember that this is a different country, a different culture. The
Yeah.
profile will be different because we are in a different culture. And then they just never change the profile,
No.
never to adjust it for the
Yeah.
fact that they are not in American culture anymore.
Yeah.
And
So,
even American culture isn't a fucking monolith. And
I
so I don't know
mean,
why they're so surprised about the fact that, like, well, in Mexican culture, these things are more heavily valued than they are in American culture. I don't know why they're so shocked by that. Why are you
yeah.
surprised?
Yeah, and I took notes of like every time Gideon fucking says something that I'm like, Gideon, shut the fuck up. Okay, a couple things before we get started.
Uh huh.
It is Dia de los Muertos, so it is
Mm
Day of
hmm.
the Dead, which is November 1st or 2nd. It's it's kind of like a multi-day thing, but it's like the night of the first.
Uh-huh.
Um, and basically it's like a night to remember friends and family who have died. You set up your ofrenda, which is like your little altar, your home altar. You put pictures of your loved ones, and it's basically like a celebration of your I hate to say ancestors because it sounds so, mythical, but basically like
Yeah.
the people in your family who have passed, who are no longer there, you kind of celebrate their lives, you celebrate the history of your family.
Mm hmm.
You usually there's like a lot of food. I mean, every Hispanic event has a lot of food and drinking and that kind of stuff, but it's basically just like a party to be like, hey, these people had lives and they were important and they passed on their legacy, whatever it may be.
Mm hmm.
Um and I did read a really interesting thing that basically, like, so Hispanic culture as a whole, and this is a generalization, but it tends to be true, is very Catholic.
Mm hmm. Yeah.
That's why you get things like Santeria, which is, you know, I guess Hispanic voodoo. I know Cuban Santeria, which is essentially, Cuban voodoo, but it's got very like Catholic roots. That's why you get like you burn certain saints' candles, you bury saint statues upside down, you make sacrifices to certain saints, like that kind of thing. It's a very it's a mix of that kind of like Haitian um that kind of like religion that has African roots, that leads to things like voodoo and hoodoo. But also, you have, colonized by Spain, colonized by, these kind of European cultures, Portugal. So you get that kind of Catholic influence into it also, and so, um, one interesting thing about the Day of the Dead that I didn't realize was that it was made to be more of an Aztec holiday. That's why it's kind of Mexico specific. That's why you have those like the skulls and the skeletons and all that sort of thing. Um, because a president of Mexico wanted it to be more Aztec so that they could keep it separate from All Saints Day, which is a Catholic. It's the day
Okay.
after Halloween, because Halloween is All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
And in you know before it was commercialized, it was like a Catholic holiday where spirits of the dead return to walk among the living. That's why we wear masks, right, to confuse the spirits. And the next day was All Saints Day, so you have All Hallows Eve, which is Halloween. That was kind of the like Devil's Day, chaos, etc. And then on
Mhm.
November 1st, All Saints Day, you cleanse yourself of the chaos of the sin, etc. And so Dias de los Muertos became more Aztec oriented to keep it separate from the Catholic All Saints Day.
Hmm.
I didn't know that. I think that's very interesting. Um, and on these days, you also tend to visit the graves of the dead. And that's why the episode starts with them in a graveyard, basically.
Yeah, I actually did like how this episode started. I
Mm-hmm.
liked the pre BAU stuff because it's not
Yes.
often that we just see normal people doing normal things in the like little pre BAU pre credits scene. I really
Yeah.
liked this actually. I was like, this is just like
Yeah.
everybody was vibing and having a good time. I liked it. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, except for the one guy who was obviously very much not having a good time, but it
Well.
was still well acted and well shot, and I
Yes.
did just like enjoy it in general.
Yeah, it was just like a cute little glimpse of another culture. Um, so the town that they're in is Allende de Sol, beyond the sun, it translates to, but it's not a real place. Um, they made up a town.
They
And
always
I
do.
also, well, it's a lot, St. Louis is a town.
Yeah, but
Uh,
if they're ever in like a small town where they're racist,
sure.
they make up a town because they did that with the New Mexico one
No,
as
you're
well.
right. You're right. That's very
Anywhere they're
funny.
racist, they have to make up a town.
Can't go be racist in a real place. They also like the front of the police station was so clearly a set.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like though at first you don't notice because it's in close-ups, and then they do like a zoom out, and it's like the fake street, the like
Mhm.
front of the building. I was like,
The way
what the
too clean
fuck?
sign that says Policia, like it was
Yeah.
way too clean. I'm like, okay,
I
don't
was
even
like,
try this.
this is so funny. Like, it was just so clearly all like plywood flats put together to look like a
With
place.
like brick texture on top of it,
Yes.
because all of the bricks looked
God.
exactly the same. There was no variation, no weathering. I was just like, okay, come
It
on.
was so funny. I was like, as I'm a scenic artist, right? That's what I went to school for, like making sets and things. I like
Mhm.
saw that and was like, you could put this shit on a stage, and I'd say, that's a pretty good set. But this is a television show. Why are
This
they
is a very
so
popular
fake?
television show. I mean, it
Yeah.
was in its first season, but still.
Still. Um, yeah, okay, so let's talk about that first scene.
Mhm.
It's Dia de los Muertos. They are this Hispanic family. We are told it's the Day of the Dead. We are told they're in Mexico. Everything has a slightly yellow tint.
That
Because it's
fucking
Mexico.
yellow tint.
I know. It's Mexico. It's gotta be yellow. That will come back in future seasons when they go back to Mexico. Um, I know.
This just
So
doesn't make any fucking sense. I fucking hate
yeah,
it so much.
I know.
It's such
So
a dumb
it's
technique.
I hate it. And it's in any movie that takes place like in Mexico, like is yellow or orange. And it's
It's
like
either
why?
it's either like Mexico or if it's anywhere in like a Middle Eastern country, then it is so
Yeah.
yellow and burnt out. And it's like, why?
But like why?
You can just tell us at the bottom of the screen that we are in X country, and I will believe you.
Yeah.
I don't have enough knowledge to be like, that doesn't look like it's X or Y country. And I'm like, no, you can just tell me and then I'll believe it.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll
Yeah.
believe what you tell me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So they're in clearly it's like a little family graveyard, family plot.
Yeah, it's just like a little corner graveyard.
It's
I
like
thought
on
it
the
was very
side of a
charming.
road. like a
Yeah.
few, I was like, oh, that's cute. Um, little montage of people drinking and eating, and they're by the graves. And then there's a girl who has like a little skeleton, and they're like, oh, is that a girl or a boy skeleton? And I was just like, why? Why do we have to gender this skeleton puppet? I don't understand. I think
Also,
I think though that's a setup for the rest of the episode, right? Is it a girl or a
it
boy?
has to be, right? Because
The
now
kid doesn't answer.
I'm not very good with biology,
Mm.
but there's not that much of a difference between
I mean there is, right?
skeletons, right? Especially the cartoony skeleton that they had up there.
Yes.
If this was like an anatomical model, I'd be like, okay, sure, valid
Your
question.
pelvis is
Teach your
shaped
kid the
wrong.
biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like a
Not the
cartoon
puppet. Yeah.
skeleton puppet.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. So then a man shows up. Miguel, we learn later. Shows up drunk already. And immediately you see, we learn it's his mom, but it's like this annoyed older woman. And he's like, hey, Diego. Hey, guys. How's it going? Happy Dia de los Muertos. Like, how's it going? Hey. And his mom is like, come on, don't do this. And you think she's talking to him, but they go back to the house and she's talking to her brother.
mm-hmm.
At one point they say brother, at one point they say brother-in-law. Not entirely sure. Um, Anyway, he's like, Miguel, how dare you get out of the house? How dare you show your face here? And his mom is all like, stop it, guys. Don't
Guys, stop
fight.
fighting.
Guys, stop fighting. Um, and then his sister is like, Mom, let him stay. And Miguel turns around and is like, this is her house. This is my mother's house. She can tell me to leave. And then the mom is just like, doesn't say anything, and he's like, fine, you will never see me again. And he leaves, and the sister follows him out and is like, Miguel, don't go, no. And he's like, why would I stay when they don't want me here? And then it leaves, and then it cuts to like, there's this guy standing in front of a taxi, the most like, this man says nothing, is literally standing there, and I saw him and I went, oh, that's a gay man. Like, he just had this like slightly, like, I don't
He
mean
had
this in
this
any sort of,
energy.
yeah, like it's not like effeminate, but he had this just slight like, I'm the gay boyfriend standing on the edge of the
He had
family
big
event.
boyfriend energy, and I think that's
Big
why we were
boyfriend
like, oh yeah,
energy.
he's gay. But
Yeah,
like he I don't know what it was. I
yeah,
also immediately clocked and I was like, that's a gay. I don't know if
yeah,
that's just gaydar going, but like I was like, that person's not straight.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I wrote, mom skeptical of car guy. She's crying. And then it cuts to the mom talking to someone, giving them a drink, and is like, the mom is like, oh, thanks. Like, I really needed help. Like, my daughter thinks, it's fine, just us. But, like, I do need help. And then you see the person, like, they have their hand wrapped in, like, a dish towel. And they grab a knife out of the kitchen. And the mom is like, no, no. And then I chase her back to the bedroom. And the mom's, like, on the floor, like, please stop. And then the door just, like, shuts.
I also want to note that the mom does say like, "Oh, I saw you earlier, but I couldn't talk to you."
Yeah.
So they're setting up something.
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 Yeah. And then it cuts to Hotch holding Jack, who is crying. It's Hotch's birthday. There's a banner that says "Happy Birthday, Daddy."
It's really like a cute effort.
Yeah,
It's Haley and her sister, whose name
Jessica.
I don't. Jessica, thank you.
Hmm.
Um,
Remember that. No spoilers, but do remember that Haley's sister's name is Jessica. You'll need to know that for future
that will be on the
seasons.
quiz at the end of season 13 of Wheels.
But if I like after every season we do like a quiz, a little
God,
quiz
no. I
show.
don't want to remember things about season 1.
Yeah.
I'm done. This information
Mm.
has left my brain as soon as I've finished editing and posting an episode. It's out of
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so we do learn that Hotch's birthday is November 1st.
Is
Um,
that a thing that we do learn later?
no, it's a thing we have learned. It is his birthday. It is the Day of the Dead.
I thought you said it
That
was
means his
November
birthday is November
2nd.
1st.
Oh, okay.
Or 2nd.
Or 2nd.
Perhaps
One of
it's
the
the
two.
2nd. I mean, I don't know. He's a Scorpio, apparently, is what that means. I asked. I was like, hey, astrology case. What does it mean that his birthday's either November like 1st or 2nd? They were like, oh, he's a Scorpio and a male Scorpio.
I
Don't ask
love
me
when
what that
astrology
means.
gays say something that is completely insane out of context, like, oh, he's a male Scorpio? Yikes. And I don't know what that means, but I'm always like, yeah, get his ass, sis. Go. Just go. Like, get his ass.
Yes, I thought I'd put that in there for any astrology gays who are listening. But that does mean nothing to me. Okay. Hotch is like holding Jack, and Jessica's like, you're holding him like a cantaloupe. And he's like, oh, you think you can get him to stop crying? And so he gives Jack to Jessica, who Jack immediately stops crying. And Hotch
Literally.
is,
She just holds him like a baby, and immediately Jack's like, all right, I'm chill now.
you're holding him like a cantaloupe. What does that
Cantaloupe. Why?
mean? What does that
Why?
mean?
What does
Um,
it mean?
but the phone has rung. Haley goes to answer it. Haley comes back and goes, it's your wife. And Gideon's like, hey, we need you to come in. Sorry, I know it's your birthday, but and I was like, yeah, get him.
I
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Haley is too good.
Haley is too good for Hodge.
She is.
Yeah,
Also,
this
MILF of all time. All time
oh,
MILF.
only milfier than Haley is like JJ later.
JJ much later.
Yeah.
But
Alex Blake
like,
maybe. But Haley's definitely up there.
ooh, Alex Blake also maybe. Haley is
Top five
definitely though
MILFs.
top 5 MILF. MILF of all time.
Yeah. Let's see.
MILF
JJ's
of
number
all time without
one.
a doubt.
JJ's number one. Alex Blake number two. Haley number three. Kate, I guess, can be number
Ooh, Kate is
four.
also in there because she is also a MILF.
Yeah.
God.
Do we only
Kate.
get oh, Christy Simmons, 5. We have 5 MILFs.
Oh, we have exactly 5. All right, perfect. They're all MILF of all time.
Our top 5 MILFs of all time. There are only 5 in the show. All right. Um Great. Gideon calls. Oh, so then we get Haley and Jessica talking. And Haley is like, I'm glad you're in town because it makes him take time off. And Haley's basically like, this is the first like glimpse we get, I think,
Mhm.
that Haley is unhappy.
Yeah, there's a lot packed into this very small scene.
So small. And I think this is only Haley's like third scene, right? Because the first one is like the first episode where
Mhm.
they're like picking baby names. And then I guess then we get the scene where she's in the hospital bed. And then we get her when she's had Jack. And now this is the first like real scene we get where she like gives him the phone and she's like, you can go. I'm not mad about it. And then she walks away. And Hodge looks at Jessica and says, you heard her. She said she's not mad. And Jessica goes, wow, you're an amazing profiler.
Jessica. Jessica.
Jessica honestly is like an all-star. Like
She
every episode
is.
she's in, you're like, damn girl, you are holding the Hotchner family together. And she's not even a fucking Hotchner.
Literally, she's so girl.
Hmm. I
Girl.
really, really wanted um them to say how old Hotch was, and they did not.
Oh yeah, cuz he's still ambiguously.
We don't know how old he is. We don't know when he was born. All we know is that his birthday is either November 1st or 2nd. And we do get a confirmation on that later, but it's on the same piece of paper that says that he's younger than Emily Prentice. So I don't know how much I trust that. Okay. So we cut to the BAU. Terrible Spanish from JJ. My child.
Terrible Spanish.
Lupe Trejo. Just very bad. Lupe, who is Miguel's mother, was stabbed in the face, chest, and genitals,
Yikes.
which is yikes.
Is this the first time we've gotten genital stabbing? in this show.
Oh,
I think it might
perhaps.
be.
Yeah, right.
Um, so get full again. Yeah, I think this is our
Yeah.
first. I think this is our
Yeah.
first episode that really goes more into like sexual violence.
They do call them sexual um oh I wrote it sexual homicides.
Yeah,
I
this
mean
is I think the first time going into this.
we do have sexual sadists, plain sight.
Yeah,
But this is our first like genital stabbing, which is
yeah,
very like
yeah. And then
Uh,
at the end of this episode, it's like, yeah,
yeah. Oh fuck, I hate this episode.
okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. We learned that 11 other elderly women have been killed. And we learned more about Allende de Sol. It's half factory town, half tourist town, and basically the factory makes the tchotchkes and the clothes that the tourists then buy. And Mexico refuses to admit that they have a serial killer, which is apparently like a thing.
yeah.
But
So apparently, the
they,
papers had put it together
yeah,
quicker and are spreading the message more than the police
yeah,
are.
and it's like even though they're killing like locals in like the locals part of town, it's still not like great to have a serial killer
Yeah, it's really bad
nearby.
press, really bad PR.
Yeah, and we learn that Miguel is in custody, but he's not talking. And basically, like the Mexican government has invited the BAU to confirm that it's like a one-time thing and that it's not a serial killer. So Derek is like, we're gonna go all the way to Mexico to be like, yeah, it's not a serial killer. But that's what they want. And then like if it is a serial killer, it might be the worst Mexican serial killer of all time. And then Hodge is all frowny because he like has to go.
Yeah, I
And
thought,
Gideon turns around and goes, Hodge, you can call from the car.
which is a dick fucking move.
Oh, Gideon, I thought
Absolute dick
family was the
move.
most important thing.
I thought you really wanted parents to stay together for their children, Gideon.
Oh. Also, Haley does not get brought up again for the rest of this episode.
No, not at all.
And I have a note for the end of the episode, but I was literally like, sorry, sh- are we not gonna get a scene
Are we
later?
not going to
Like,
talk about that at all?
but no, we're not apparently.
I
Um,
also thought it was interesting the way that they framed why the BAU was going down there.
mhm.
The way that they like specifically mentioned they're like Mexico, the government has requested that we go down there to confirm that it is a one-time thing and not a serial killer. I think that sort of that framing is really important, and we will get into the intricacies of diplomacy much later when we go to the imperialist nightmare that is Criminal Minds Beyond Borders.
We'll get to it in
But
fucking season 13.
yeah, that's when the crossover happens. Um,
Oh,
but
that's not
like,
what I mean, though. We gotta.
oh,
Oh, listeners will know what you probably haven't seen it, but listeners will know what the fuck I'm talking about. Ripe Mexico.
but yeah, I think it's interesting the way that they try and frame this, and they sort of just hand wave it away later, but like other times they do the same thing better. I just want you guys to know that
Yes.
that sometimes they do actually do international diplomacy with stakes, with teeth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what happens next?
So next, we get on the airplane. I have 4 bullet points here. I said, okay, 1, JJ, at least you're spending your birthday weekend in Mexico.
You know?
I mean, 1, sure. 2, that's so insensitive, JJ. He literally could be with his wife and child, but go off, I guess. Um, 2, Hotch is like, how do you say doghouse in Spanish? Reed says it. Well, Reed says Casa del Perro, which is like, okay.
The
And then
most white boy Spanish.
I know. And then Elle corrects him, and she's like, "Face it, you're only a genius in English." And then Morgan says, "Since when do you speak Spanish?" Or he goes, "Spanish? Since when?" And she says, "I'm full of hidden mysteries."
So true, lesbian. Just say that shit.
Like, okay, 1, like we get it, you're gay. 2, I'm sorry. are they just learning that Elle
That
speaks Spanish? Is
are they just
19
learning
episodes
that she's Cuban? Like,
she she's about, I mean, spoiler, but she's about to leave the fucking show. Why has she never spoken Spanish before? Like, why? Like, I don't get it. They've been together for, if a season spans a year, almost a year, and they don't know Elle speaks Spanish? They don't know she's
to
like
be fair,
Hispanic?
I do feel like El Greenaway is the type of person to just not say that she speaks a language until somebody starts like trying to talk shit about her in front of her and she's like, "Oh, you know I speak Spanish too, right?" So she is
Yeah.
absolutely that bitch. But it is
She's like, I
also
saved
so
it.
stupid that fucking Derek that they don't know that she's Hispanic. Like, wouldn't that be on her fucking transfer paperwork? I feel like Gideon or Hotch would know that.
But also, like, Derek and Elle have had several moments where they looked at each other like, we are the only people of color in this room. So, like, did that conversation never come up? Like, I mean, I'm the whitest bitch on the planet. I meet another Hispanic person and I'm like, so where are you from? What kind of Hispanic are you? Me too. Like, hello? It's just like, I don't get it. She looks not white. We
Yeah.
know that Lola Glaudini is like half Jewish, half Italian.
Mm-hmm.
A white person. Off white,
Yes.
perhaps, but a white person.
Yeah.
But in this show, she looks very brown. I cannot believe that she and Derek have not had a moment where they're like, fuck these white people, am I right? I just, what?
Here's the thing. I think in early seasons of Criminal Minds, they operate under the assumption that these people only see each other during the episodes of Criminal Minds. They do not build a rich tapestry of backstories, of
Nothing
dates, and
happens between
everything. Yeah,
episodes.
they just get powered down like robots at the end of the episode. In later seasons, they're much better about like having
Yeah.
time pass outside of the scope of the television show
Yes.
Criminal Minds. You
Yes.
know?
Also,
Later they do it a lot better. But this time, I think they just are under the assumption that everybody's robots.
I mean, this is also like Garcia, the whitest person on the planet, like myself, fails to speak Spanish later. And Derek says, what the fuck? Your last name is Garcia. Why don't you speak Spanish? And she says, it's my stepfather's name. So, like, you have Elle over here looking not white as hell, who they
Yeah.
don't even think about asking, like, so you're Hispanic or what? And then Garcia, who does not have a Hispanic bone in her body, they're like, what the fuck? You have a Hispanic last name. You can't speak Spanish? Like, I just, as a white Hispanic person,
Mm-hmm.
that shit drives me nuts. Like, my personal experience of being Hispanic is people telling me my entire life that I am not Hispanic, that I'm not Cuban, because I am a white person. Having my this big part of my identity erased because of how I look.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm very vocal about being a Hispanic person. I'll readily admit, like, I'm a white person. I moved to the world as a white person. But my Hispanic identity matters to me, and the thoughts and the opinions that I have on things like white passing, on things like immigration and immigrants' rights and all that kind of stuff, they come from being Hispanic and from growing up in a very immigrant rich city.
Mm-hmm.
And so when TV shows like this make it seem like being Hispanic is nothing, you know, it's like, no, like it
It's
means
so weird.
something. And I really wish they had made Garcia more Hispanic, even if it's her stepfather. Like, it's a culture, it's her culture. She grew up with a Hispanic stepfather, right? We learned later that stepfather practically raised her. We don't know anything really about her birth father, you know.
Mhm.
Her stepfather like was her father, and all of her siblings are step or half siblings. They're all very Hispanic looking. I wish they had just went ahead and been like, this is a Hispanic person, even if like, her blood isn't necessarily Hispanic. Culturally, she's Hispanic. And they just didn't do that. And then for Elle, someone who like is by blood Hispanic, they completely erased that. Excuse me, until they
Yeah.
went to Mexico. So it's like they just don't give a shit. Hispanic as an ethnicity, I need to stop talking because I'll go on about this forever. Hispanic as an ethnicity, Latin America, being Latin American, it's so more complex than people think it is, and it's inextricably linked to colonialism, and
Mhm.
that's something that nobody ever talks about. Like we talk about colorism within like the Black community, but we don't talk about colorism within Hispanic communities. Like the privilege that I have as a white Hispanic person versus someone with all the same statistics that I am, but they're Black. Like that means something.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't like that this show is just like, oh, I didn't know you spoke Spanish, Elle.
It's just so weird to me cuz they
It's
like you can't pick a side. Either you admit that Elle's Hispanic or you don't.
right. Also, like,
Period.
I think more of it is just like the surprise. Instead of Derek being like, hell yeah, Spanish, he's like, you speak
Speak
Spanish?
Spanish?
I think that really is like. Also, Lola Glaudini so clearly does not speak Spanish.
She does not.
Oh no, she does the thing that's like that kills me when people who do not speak a language speak that language. And God bless Paget Brewster for not doing this. Is every sentence ends with a question mark?
Mhm.
Like there always sounds like there should be more words. Every one of Lola Glaudini's lines are her like painstakingly, word by word, trying her best to sound like she speaks Spanish. And it kills me. I'm like, why are we pretending like she's a natural Spanish speaker? Because it's tearing my heart to pieces.
It's not good.
It's not good, fam.
It's not good at all.
Fam. It's so bad it made me just say that.
It's so bad it brought you to fam. That's how terrible it is.
Um okay. On the plane we learned Mexico doesn't record serial killers, so their numbers are lower than ours. We learned about something called Gideon calls the Chikatilo syndrome, which is basically like in the Soviet Ukraine, there was a serial killer named Andrei Chikatilo who killed 50 plus people, but they refused to admit it because Russians, I guess, Soviets, see serial killers as uniquely American because of capitalism. Um, yeah.
Which I doubt it's because of the capitalism. I think it's just because they could have had such an interesting discussion about why America tends to recognize and sort of almost raise
Yeah.
up serial killers than other cultures do. And they kind of hit on it again later a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting number one, it's not because of the capitalism. I doubt anybody ever thought it was because of the capitalism. I think that was just a bad communist joke from Gideon, and I'm not shocked because the last time he evaluated his moral standing was probably during the Cold War. But
During the USSR.
but
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that he's almost like aware of the fact that other countries don't categorize and look at serial killers the same way that the United States does.
Yeah, I feel like this was a good chance to talk about the kind of like, America values individualism.
Mm-hmm.
We value one person making a stand. And it reminds me of A Real Rain, where, the reporter is like, I didn't kill those people. And Gideon says, yeah, you don't have it in you.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, serial killers are crazy, but like they did the thing, you know.
We're very obsessed with the idea of the individual doing these things, doing these incredible things, even if they are good and or bad. We are much more obsessed with the idea of individualism than probably any other country.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the way we talk about serial killers, we as Americans talk about serial killers, it's always like this person had a mental break. This person was mentally ill. This person had something happen to them. And we don't tend to look at it as like a societal thing. You know, why do white men get to buy all these guns and then have mental breaks and kill people? You know, we look at it on like a case by case basis. As you know, I think we're getting better about that now. But you know, I mean, in this show, I mean, Criminal Minds does that. You know, like no one's talking about, you know, the injustice of the healthcare system. No one's talking about
Hmm.
the stigma around seeking, you know, help for mental illness. You know, it's like
And
this one person had something happen to them.
they even kind of make a mention of this, I think, while on the plane or a little bit after that, where they make a mention of like Mexico thinks
Hmm.
that America has more serial killers because America has statistically, just on average, more broken families. And they
Yeah,
think it's more of a culture problem than it is an individual problem, which is how Criminal Minds looks at it, as an individual problem versus a culture that encourages that sort of problem to fester.
yeah. They say that Mexico doesn't believe they have serial killers because they attribute serial killers to the breakdown of the family.
Which is probably a gross oversimplification.
Right. But also I think that it's you know, it's not maybe like a breakdown of the family isn't the way to say it, but it's like there are things that we learn contribute to serial killings, at least in this
Mm-hmm.
show. You know, things like isolation, things
Mm-hmm.
like a lack of human connection, things like, you know, having your family die, not being able to find a partner, not being able to find a community. Like, I do think that, you know, communities help people. And I do think that, like, social bonds encourage people to seek out help for, you know, mental illnesses and for things like that, you know. So I understand like why America is seen as this shit show.
Serial killer capital of the world.
Yeah, because it fucking is. You know, but I don't think, yeah, the way they talk about Mexico, the way the Mexicans talk about Mexico, and the way the BAU talks about Mexico is just, hmm,
It's
I don't
weird.
know. Yeah, it's like they are trying to both make Mexico seem like this paradise of family connection and this and that, you know. Everyone has their roles and they like it. But also it's this kind of like backwater, we don't have any female police officers, you know?
It's like they're really trying to show that sort of idyllic family unit Mexico, but then they're also showing us an extremely broken Mexican family at the same time.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to do both the stereotype of Hispanic families being tight knit, that same like matriarchal thing that I was telling you about, and the culture at large is sexist and, you know, um behind the times and all that kind of stuff. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
really want to show us that Mexico is both, which it 100% can't be, but not like black and white, you know.
It's very much like they're trying to both do the trope and then subvert the trope at the same time, so they end up with a lot of just sort of like,
Yeah,
eh,
and
eh.
there's not, it doesn't feel like they're being super heavy-handed with their like America's better than this, but at the same time it's like the Mexican cops like, we don't have any police officers, and Elle is like, now you do, and it like pants to her and JJ, and it's like, oh, we get it. Americans allow women on their police force. It's just like, ugh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Let's
okay,
just keep going.
okay. Um, they get to the police station, and Derek is like, how about that jet sleep? And Ella's like, yeah, jet sleep is like a night of drinking, but without the drinking.
And
And I
honestly,
did
true.
I did like that little like, oh, they had to sleep on the jet. You
Yeah,
know?
it was a long flight. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. So they meet Captain Navarro, who was put in charge by the district attorney general, and we learned that Captain Navarro met Gideon at a seminar Gideon did about sexual homicide in Latin America. And
Correct.
that Captain Navarro also read a chapter in Max Ryan's book.
He mentions Max Ryan like twice, and I'm like, I get you guys are trying to make this callback happen, but it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. I mean, I got it. I was like, oh, Max Ryan. But like, it's been a long time since we've seen Max Ryan, and if you're watching this as it comes out, you're not necessarily gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to
Okay.
mention that Carlos Gomez, who plays Captain Navarro, has been in like every single procedural at least twice.
Yeah,
He
of
is
course.
he had a whole thing in um Law and Order. He had a whole show, that really bad The Baker and the Beauty TV show on ABC Family. He was in The Glades, he was in 24. I just wanted to mention that if you looked at that guy and you were like, you look really familiar. Again, it's one of those TV actors who has been in
Yeah.
everything once or twice.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to mention that because I was like, man, he looked really familiar. And I went to his IMDb page, and there's like 7 shows each year or more, and I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why you look familiar.
Yep.
Sorry, I just had to
Oh
mention
god.
that.
And an interesting thing is Captain Navarro is like, I don't think your profiling techniques can translate to Latin culture without a better cultural understanding.
Yeah, which
He
I
says
like
that
that
right off the
he's
bat.
and he and Gideon have obviously talked about this before and gone back and forth on it. So I
Yeah.
really like that there was, number one, this sort of implied history between um, Agent Gideon and him, but also that like he has his own opinions about profiling that maybe
Yeah.
don't match up to the opinions of the BAU, who are supposed to be the experts here. I just really, really like that.
Yes. I really like that. And I would like it more if it didn't become like, and he will tell us the stereotype in every situation, you know?
Yeah, and I would like it more if they go to the car in a little bit, and um Elle tries to like get info from him like in Spanish, and Gideon's like, no, 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 English, please. So they do talk about family and machismo. And do you want to? You look like you have many thoughts. Give me all of them. Say them all.
Okay. L in Spanish is like, so like, what did Gideon get wrong about the culture? And the guy's like, oh, let me tell you. And Gideon's like, excuse me, English, please. English, please. And I just wanted to be like, Gideon, you're in fucking Mexico, dude.
You are
Like,
in Mexico.
you are so lucky you happen to go to the town where all these Mexicans speak perfect fucking English. I mean, they have Hispanic accents, but like one of the at one point they're interviewing someone and she goes, "See, sorry, yes," and I was just like,
Yeah, yeah.
why does everyone there are no translators? Like there are episodes where in America, right, where someone speaks a language that is not English and they get a fucking translator, yet somehow we go to Mexico and everyone speaks perfect Spanish and it's a small town in Mexico. It's a small town.
It's a
I
little
get
factory town.
I like
They're not at some like fancy college or anything. It's a factory town.
and it's like I get that it's like a tourist town, so like the
Yeah.
police maybe like sure the police speak English well enough to deal with tourists, but like why are these like factory workers speaking perfect English? Like they're Mexican. They would speak Spanish to each other.
And also, like,
Oh.
if you go to any fucking factory in the United States and you walked the floor and you were like, hey, how many languages do you speak? It would be one. Oh, by and large, it would be one language. They speak English. That's pretty much it. Like, it's just so,
Yeah, I mean, or they wouldn't speak English at all.
yeah,
You know, like there are pockets of the United States where no one speaks English. I mean, that's
yeah,
like a thing. Like in Miami, there are parts of Miami where you can go to a store and nobody there will speak English.
yeah.
You know, so for them to like actually go to Mexico and there isn't one person who does not speak, like everybody speaks English, and they
Yeah, it's
didn't
not
even
even
say
just
it's
like the
not even
main
like
characters that speak English. It's every single Mexican
person.
person that they come across
Yes,
speaks
yes.
perfect English.
Like, why does this abuela who worked in a factory her whole life know English? Like, I don't like that. I just don't like that. And I get that with like an American serial or an English show, but like, get a fucking translator. I just,
Also, in other episodes that they have translators, the translators become like fun characters in and of themselves.
Yes.
And it's like you could have had a fun translator character, but no. You shot this on a lot in California. Like, we get it.
Yeah, we get it.
This episode was a lot of things, and one of the things it was not was good.
One of the things it was bad. Yeah, I
Correct.
agree with that. All right. So basically, Detective Navarro says there are two components of Mexican culture: family and machismo. Right. Which is what
And
we've been
he,
talking about, right? The matriarchal center versus like the men rule everything, you know.
yeah, and he specifically mentions that these things are not taken into account in one of Gideon's profiles,
Right.
which is absolutely true,
Yeah.
and they never fucking change that over the course of this
No.
episode.
But I wrote this down because it made me so mad. He goes, there are like two important parts of Mexican culture: family and machismo. And Gideon says, you have some funny ideas.
Sir, you're a white dude. You're a white dude from DC. Funny ideas? Oh my god. Oh my god.
Like, is he talking about like Mexican culture being like, oh, you're so silly? Or is he talking about like this guy's perception of his own fucking culture? Like, you have some funny ideas? Hey, Gideon, go fuck
Was it
yourself.
was it like you have some funny ideas on what would influence a profile?
Uh, Whatever it is, it's
Either
condescending
way,
as fuck.
it was condescending and probably
And
racist.
like, one big problem around representation of Hispanic men, I think, similarly to Asian men, is that they get infantilized a lot.
Mhm.
You know, they get like dismissed. You know, and I think it's a problem that Americans have where like if you don't speak English, you're considered like stupid, you know?
Mhm.
Like if someone speaks broken English, you're like, "Oh, you're a little slow." You know, when it's like, "No, that person speaks two languages," right? Like
Yeah.
Sofia Vergara in an episode of what show is she on? Modern
Modern
Family.
Family. Mhm.
She has an episode where she's like they're like teasing her for getting something wrong and she says like you should hear how smart I am in Spanish. Okay. And we also learn here that Captain Navarro was chosen to lead this whole charade because of his relationship with Gideon.
Yeah, so he was chosen by the Attorney General,
Hmm.
I think they mentioned.
It is the District Attorney General.
Who, by the way, hot bitch. Love her.
Oh,
She's
Maria
always trailed by
Sanchez.
two men in suits who never say anything. Power
God,
move.
she
Have
is
men
so.
follow you around and not say a thing. I love that, sweetie.
She. Every scene of hers is her getting out of a car, saying, "Fuck you, I hate you, I'm busy," and then leaving again. And it's like, yes, queen.
Yeah, more bitches like this. God,
It's
I
so
love it.
good. Oh god, she showed up and I went, "Oh no, every crush I ever had on a Hispanic teacher full force." Oh god. Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, I have to stop laughing. I just woke up Pixel and I feel bad.
Oh, poor
She's
kitty.
sleeping on my pillow right now and she just
Oh.
woke her little head up, glared at me, and laid back down. She like turned around, so now her back is facing towards me.
You insulted your cat. You woke that bitch up. That
My
is
apologies.
hilarious. Um,
To be fair, she's mad at me because I accidentally dunked her in the shower today. Uh,
I
I didn't
saw.
realize that sounds bad. I didn't realize she was hanging out in the bathtub before I turned the shower on,
Mm-hmm.
and she did not make a single sound. She just ran. She just ran like she was in fucking Looney Tunes, claws scraping against the floor. She was fucking out of there. I think she's still probably mad at me for that. I'm gonna give her a treat in a little bit.
Oh, that is so funny.
Anyway,
Okay. Anyway, they have a newspaper and I'll translate it. It's a serial assassin, and it calls the authorities slow. And so that's why like the district attorney general is like, let's get this show on the road, shut that shit down. So they get to Allende del Sol, which is like a little town outside of whatever the main town is, and Derek is like, what are all these decorations? And Captain Navarro is like, yeah, it's Dia de los Muertos. And then Reed gives us the explanation for it. And yeah. And Captain Navarro is like, he sounds like he read that out of a book. And Derek's like, yeah, he always sounds like that. But then Reed goes, actually, I picked up a pamphlet at the airport.
which is actually kind of cute and
Which
funny.
is, yeah, which was like, I was like, okay, Reed. That's cute.
You
Fine.
get this one. I like that they have this like other deputy. This besides Captain Navarro, they have this
Yeah.
deputy Borquez. I think they say.
Oh, I
Um,
put it down.
that's what he's.
Hold on.
That's what he is on IMDb. I don't know if that's what they say in the episode, but I like that they have him with personality as well. We don't just get the one guy. We don't just get Captain Navarro. We also get
Mhm.
this other guy who is fun and has like fun interactions with people and like does stuff that people ask. And I love that we have not just one monolithic Mexican police officer. We get two at least, and they both have fun personalities.
Yes.
We
Ugh.
barely get this in the American episodes. Like,
Yeah, I I enjoyed that. I liked that he was like, he did embody that Hispanic, like the like, I'm not sexist. This is just how it is.
yeah,
There's like a very Hispanic, at least in my experience, that's particular, like Miami Cuban, like, I'm not sexist. Women just belong in the homes and men make better bosses. That's just how it is. Like,
yeah,
I have never examined my own gender identity and or the relationship that I have with women. Like, it's just like, we don't have any female police officers. We don't have any,
that's just how it is.
it's just how it is. Women don't report rapes. Like, why would they? Like, it's just, this is how it is. And
Yeah,
I mean, I hate that person. I hate the character, but I like that the show gave us that character. Where Captain Navarro is like, and I wrote this down later, but like, I hate that Captain Navarro is like, yeah, that not just him, but like the stereotype of like, yes, I did grow up in this terribly sexist, misogynistic, transphobic culture, but somehow I'm like super chill with gay people.
I'm super
Like,
fine. I
yeah,
love the
hi
gays.
woman. Like, yeah, like I love gay people. I have no problem with trans people. Like, why are you blaming them? Like, I love like women can be bought. Like, it's just like, I hate that trope where it's like, no, like you would be a product of your society.
Hmm.
Like, why is this one person a paragon of goodness, but like everyone, including like their family and their childhood best friends and all this shit, they're all terrible, but like this person though,
They're
they
fine.
are good. Yeah, and it's like,
They try and
why?
play these guys as like good cop, bad cop, but they're both like very lovable characters in their own way.
Uh,
I did grab another V8 because I feel like we aren't going to be done with this episode anytime soon.
we will, we will, we will, we will.
Really? Because we're like 10 minutes into the episode
Stop,
and we've been
stop it. We're
recording for
going.
an hour.
Hey, we
Hey,
always do our meta bullshit at the beginning.
that's true.
All right, okay. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, they're going into the um crime scene, and Captain Navarro's like, I knew you would want to visit the crime scene before you met the victims. And Gideon's like, oh, you remember that from my lecture? And Captain Navarro says, no, I read it in Max Ryan's book. And Gideon is like, oh. It was like a really
I
funny,
love
like,
it.
Yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, get him.
I didn't like Max Ryan either, but fuck yeah,
No.
that guy over Gideon, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Um, they're talking about when the killing happened. It happened right when church got out, so everyone was walking back from the town square. So they were like, okay, she must have been killed during evening mass. Here's my question: why wasn't she at evening mass?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
weird. They never answered that.
no. Also, like, this is another episode where like Catholicism is like, or Christianity is deeply rooted in it. Like they figure out when the murder happened because of when church was happening, but then there was no talk of religion. Just like in A Real Rain, when he was like trying to do some fucking divine justice, we never talk about
Mm-hmm.
religion. So like why did we not have the conversation of like maybe this trans person who is never actually considered to be trans, maybe this trans person feels this way because of growing up in such a deeply fucking Catholic country.
Well, I also the thing is too is I even if you grow up in a deeply religious place, sometimes you just measure things by time between church services, and that's just like second nature to you.
The
It's not
bells
like
and things.
when I, for example, when I go and visit home, I always I always judge when I'm going to get home. So, number one, I don't have to go to church. And number two, I can arrive near the end of church so my mom doesn't feel guilty for not greeting me immediately when I get back, you know? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes, just like when you grow up in a place like that, it's just like, oh, yeah, it would have been around the time of evening mass because nobody was around the streets. That makes sense to me. Like, that
Yes.
tracks for me. Of like, oh, yeah, nobody works on Sunday mornings because church is in, and you're gonna get a big rush around 11:30 when church lets out. All right, cool. That's just like, even if it's
Yeah.
not extremely religious, it's always just like, yeah, this is just like how it is.
Yes.
So I can see why they just mentioned that and then didn't have the conversation about it. Is what I'm saying. Like I can see why that was just like, yeah, we're just gonna mention this and that's it.
Yes. That's true. I guess so. But it's like when Miguel comes out as gay and we find out that's why his mom is so mad, like nobody has like the thought of like they talk about like that's just how it is here. We hate gay people in Mexico. That's just how it
Yeah,
is. No one is
yeah.
like, is it because we're Catholic or like what? They're just like, sorry, Mexicans do hate gays though.
And then they never talk about that at
And
all.
then they never talk about it. And they're never like, maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah. Like maybe we
And
shouldn't hate gays.
I just like, it's that signposting Criminal Minds does.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, we're going to show you a thing and then let you make a decision about it and take no stance on it.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's fucking strange.
Yeah, it is.
And walk me through this house scene because a lot happens inside this lady's house.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Okay. They get into the house. They're like,
Get a little
okay,
closer to your mic too.
all
Thank you.
right,
I
here
was
we go.
just gonna say sit up, but yeah.
I'm sitting up, and here I am. I'm
You're
here.
just leaning real far back and all of a sudden your voice sounds like it's a million miles away and I'm like,
I'm
hello, down the tunnel. I'm
sorry.
sorry, it's okay,
Hello.
it's okay.
Okay, we're here. We're here.
We're
Boom.
here.
They get into the house. They're like, hey, there's no forced entry. What happened? Option one. They He pushed past her into the house, but then they're like, hey, the knife came from the kitchen. So they're like, well, most likely it was a voluntary entrance because there's two cups on the table. Let's, make an assumption that they sat down for drinks. And they asked Captain Navarro, like, hey, did you guys take any DNA? And I'm so sorry. He's like, no, like our crime scene tech has like one fingerprint kit from the 80s. And like that's it. So they
And
were like,
surely you all have more than that.
it's a tourist town.
It's also
Like
2006.
I don't understand why they're like, oh, we're this small town. We don't have any cops. Ooh, no,
Oh,
ooh, it's
whoa.
so hard. But they're also like, this is a thriving tourist town, and there can't be crime here because tourism. So like, why don't you have a better police force? Hello.
It's also like the police station as we see it is fairly modern.
Yeah, it's huge.
There are computers and like phones and they have shit there is the thing. Like this isn't some little podunk town in the middle of nowhere with no computer and one working phone.
I don't
This is like they
understand.
have shit. They have resources. They have this high-powered bitchy attorney whom I love. Like
Yeah, I do love her. I wish she was like a main character in this episode. They really said we're gonna hint at some sort of thriving feminist law system. But no, we're not actually gonna show you like any part of that. It's just like, why are you doing this then? Like, why? Like, why bother?
yeah,
Anyway,
like she has I don't
yeah.
know.
So okay, we have one kid from the 80s, blah blah, and then they're like, okay, well, did you take the prints? And the guy was like, oh yeah, they're smudged. So they were like, okay, well, and then the guy says, like, by the way, this is tamarind water, which is like a women's drink. It's
It's like a sweet water?
it's sweet water, and men would have alcohol in the evening, especially because there are festivities happening. So, like, for this to be 2 glasses of tamarind water, it must be a woman. That is the assumption.
I
It would be real gay for a
to
man
have
to
this
drink
sweet water.
water.
Gay as fuck to drink sweet water, my guys. Gay as fuck.
fellas, fellas, is it gay to drink water?
Fellas, is it gay to drink the thing that your host sets out for you? Is that
Yeah.
considered kind of gay? Why
So
are you
then,
letting
like,
them make the choices for you? That's kind of fucking gay, dude.
yeah, this was the moment I remember the rest of this episode because he says that, and then Hotch goes, "You think a woman did this?" And or Hotch goes like, "Oh, so it could be a woman," and Navarro goes, "You think a woman did this?" And Hotch goes, "It's unlikely." I was like, "Well, then why'd you bring it up, bro?" Okay,
Why? Why'd you say
why?
that?
Why'd you do it? But as soon as they said that, I was like, "Hold on, pause,
It
pause,
gets
pause,
better.
pause,
It
pause."
gets better. Let's continue to the end of this
Yeah,
house scene because I have
yeah.
some shit to say.
Okay, so then Rita's like, well, let's get the cups to the FBI. We can at least like get that person's gender. And they're like, okay. So they go into the room where the woman was killed. There's blood all over the bed. And Gideon's like looking at all the photos and stuff. And it's like, okay, there's the family, there's this, that. He's like, I'm looking for a reason as to why they were killed and why they would let this person in. They open the drawer. Miguel's photo is in her drawer. And
Mm-hmm.
Gideon is like, why is this photo hidden? Everything else is put up. Like, this is it. And Navarro's like, I don't know. I don't know. So then in the daughter's bedroom, Derek and Elle are looking through things that are like, okay, well, the guy took jewelry from the daughter's bedroom. And they're like, when you have this kind of sexual homicide, the thievery is usually a second afterthought. That's like a cover up kind of thing, or like you want a trophy, but like the jewelry is still on Lupe, the mother's body, but he took it from the daughter's bedroom. So like that's weird. So then they
Yeah.
go outside, and here's your conversation. It has to be a heterosexual male because it is a sexual homicide, and only a man who was attracted to women would kill a woman in a sexual way. Homosexual men would only attack men. Go for it.
I love how they are talking about sexuality and gender like it is your fucking character class from an RPG. They're like, if you are a woman, you cannot be killed by men. If you are a gay man, you can only kill other men. Sorry, women have damage. They can't be hit by your damage. It's like
Actually, I'm
fucking like
immune to charisma spells.
literally,
It's like
literally
literally.
though. It's like
Yeah,
actually as a dwarf, I am immune to any elven magic, so you can
yeah.
fuck right off. Like what
Actually,
the
I'm
fuck?
half elf. I can see in the dark up to 120 feet. It's like, that's not, I know. And the way Reed says, like, let's send the cups to the FBI so we can at least get their gender, I was like, okay, we're purposefully, like, gendering things.
Yes.
And we learned later that the reason Navarro was like, oh, so homosexual men would only attack men is because he knows that Miguel is gay.
And he
you
knows
know.
also, I think he also knows that Miguel didn't do this.
Well, he like suspects that he didn't do this. So when they are giving like confirmation, um um they he wants like proof. He wants like his suspicions confirmed, because he has like his cop hunch that Miguel didn't do it, but he doesn't
Yeah.
have any reason for that, and he can't say like he says this. He says if he went to the district attorney and was like, "Hey," or the district attorney general and was like, "Hey, I don't think he did it because he's gay." The district attorney general would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Like that's not a reason to do anything." So
Yeah.
it's yeah, again, it's like poking at this kind of like the Hispanic. I mean, and that's the whole thing, right? And this isn't a Hispanic thing, but like gay men are seen as effeminate. They're seen as more feminine. They are aligned with women, with straight women, right? Because they like men, in quotation marks, the same way women do.
Mm-hmm.
And like they are seen as effeminate. That's why you get your limp wrist. That's why you get the list. That's why you get the fashion and the decorating, right? Because if you're attracted to men, you must be more like a woman, kind of thing. And especially in Hispanic cultures where you have this whole machismo thing, like being a man is about being sexually attractive and active with women.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy, it is my fucking right to sleep with any woman I want to. I can have affairs and it's not a big deal because I'm a man and that's what men do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so to be a gay man and to be, um, it's not super relevant in this episode, but like to be a man, especially like a bottom, to be a man who receives sex from other men is to align yourself with women. And that's weakness and that's like betraying your manhood and blah, 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 blah. So like that's why I think Hispanic cultures who put so much emphasis on this machismo, who put so much emphasis on traditional, I guess, views of manhood, that's why being gay is such a um betrayal. That's why,
Mm-hmm.
like, Miguel's sister talks about shame. My brother, lays there like a woman. She doesn't say this, but the implication is my brother lays there like a woman, you know, and takes it, etc., etc. And that's where you get this kind of like shame and stuff from. So like that's why it's such a huge cultural stigma. And I didn't like, again, I don't have any experience with this, obviously, but like when they say if people in prison knew Miguel was gay, they'd kill him,
Yeah.
which is interesting to me, I think, because it's like the opposite of the normal stereotype of jokes you get about prison.
Mm-hmm.
Prison, the terrible jokes, terrible stereotype is like you're gonna go to prison, you're gonna be someone's fucking, butt boy or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like odd that like that then being gay in prison would be a death sentence instead of like a a boon, you know?
Yeah.
That was weird to me, but again, that might be, I mean, it might be a Mexico thing, I don't know about. But it
It's
just felt like
just
an odd.
the
Yeah.
whole thing is uh number one, terrible.
Yeah.
Number two, just a weird fucking framing device for them to take for this episode. Because they never really like frame it as a, what's the word I'm looking for? They never frame it like a machismo thing. They just frame it like a gay thing. They don't try and link those up at all. Like they don't try and link up the
Yeah.
idea of the homosexuality with the machismo with the family unit. Like they don't try and draw any conclusions from those things. They're just like gay people get reduced damage on straight people. I'm sorry. Like no, what does that mean? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
Yeah.
It's just it felt so fucking strange to me. It was just such a, especially the way that they had that conversation just really struck out to me as like, this is fucking weird. Like
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yes. It's uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
certainly a thing that happens.
It's a thing that happens.
And it's bad and terrible
Uh,
and awful, and I wish Criminal Minds would do less of it.
yes. That's exactly correct. I do wish Criminal Minds would do less of it. I wasn't expecting this so soon after the tribe.
And then
I
also
watched.
so soon after the other gay episode we just had last time with Somebody's Watching. They were really
Yes.
like, let's just hit all this gay stuff. These are our two gay eps. Thank you. Goodbye. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah. It is weird. Now that you mentioned Somebody's Watching was last episode. They were like,
Yep.
we did the lesbians, now we
Uh
can do
huh.
the gays.
Uh huh.
I don't like that at all. All right, okay. They find out that Miguel's sister was like trying to talk to him, and when they were like, no, she just shut up completely, wouldn't say anything. So they're all like, let's go find out what she's hiding. So then they go to the police precinct and we meet Maria Sanchez, District Attorney General. And she
Hot
shows
bitch.
up and she goes, Agente Gideon, Agente Hodge. And I was like, she speaks perfect English. Why isn't she just saying agent?
And then later, she just says agent.
Yeah, but it's like she's Hispanic. She's got to be like, Agente, Agente.
It's just so weird.
Yeah, I put she's brusque and no nonsense. And then she's like, okay, bye, and leaves. And then and then Captain Navarro says she's worse in Spanish.
But also so true. She will bitch your ass out in Spanish, but she's fine to you,
She
the federal agents, in English.
she wasn't even, but the thing is like she wasn't even like rude. She showed
True.
up, she was like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, I'm glad you can clear this up. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Later.
what a bitch, am I right? She's worse in Spanish. It was like she was fine though. She's just like it was literally just like she's a woman in charge. So he was like, yeah, fuck her, am I right? It's like I didn't like that. Oh, she says the papers are obsessed with serial killers. Like, I'm glad you're here to dispel that. We're supposed to hate her because we're supposed to know that it is a serial killer and she's wrong and blah 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 blah. But it's like you are all working for a government. She's not some like career politician out to ruin your lives. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get why she was the enemy. It was literally just like the one, like, there are no female police officers, but there is a female district attorney general. Therefore, she is the enemy. It was just like the weirdest, like, we hate to see a woman succeed.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Okay. So then we learned the neighbors heard the family fighting, and it was the fighting from the beginning of the episode. And they found Miguel trying to cross the border. He hired a coyote to cross the border, and the sister is there. She thinks he's innocent, and they're like, "Oh, what a good sister." So then Hutch and Gideon go into his police cell, and they're like, "Tell us about the fight, whatever." And he says, "Oh, my mom was angry about my leaving," and Gideon's like, "You've always had issues with your mother." And then he's like, "You're hiding some terrible truth. Like, when did you first know? Or actually, when did your mother first know?" And Miguel's like, "First know what?" And Gideon goes, "That you're a homosexual." And Miguel just goes, "No hablo inglés." And I
Which
was like, fuck
so
yeah.
funny.
So
But
funny, but also like the Mexican police chief like is also in the room though. So like you're in
yeah.
Mexico. I'm so sorry, dude. Like,
You're not going to get out of it that easy, bud.
yeah.
But also, the fact that Gideon just looks at this man, it's like, when did your mother know you were gay? You're fucking homophobic, Gideon. Please stop. Please
it's
stop.
it's yeah, that really made me like,
I was so
like
uncomfortable
when?
for this dude. And like, how did Gideon know that? Because
It's like Gideon was like, what is the worst possible secret for
that
a,
you could
for a
have
Mexican family? And it's literally like,
gay
you're
son.
gay. Like,
It
what if
felt
he had
so
like,
bad.
it could have been so many other things, like, quick trigger warning, sexual assault, but he could have like raped his sister. Like there are things that it could have been that were not just like he's gay.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
the thing that they just like
and they never say how they knew.
also out of all of them,
Gideon,
Gideon
right?
Gideon
Yeah,
doesn't have gaydar. He
no,
doesn't know shit.
burn in hell.
Run away. But like also like
How did they know? Like
How did they
why?
know?
Like in like what?
How did
But
they
like
know?
what? Yeah.
What gave that away? Cuz nothing about his behavior screamed gay to me. Like,
Yeah. Like there was nothing like except like the guy at the beginning who was watching it, who
but they
Gideon
didn't
didn't
know about that
see.
guy yet.
Yeah. So like there's nothing. Gideon literally went, "Oh, the son did something that was bad enough that he was trying to like leave town." Yeah, he's gay.
He definitely likes
Like
men.
how? Yeah.
How? Why?
So then it cuts to Hotch, who's confronting Navarro in his office and is like, "You knew he was gay, like you knew the whole time. You knew that's why you asked like why like a gay man wouldn't have committed the murder, etc." And Navarro is basically like, "I had to play the party line until I knew that I could trust you guys. Like, the attorney general would have laughed in my face if I said he didn't do it because he was gay. How did I know you guys weren't going to do the exact same thing? And he clearly like believes the serial killer and nobody else does, you know. And Hotch just like
Yeah,
has no response to that because I feel like Hotch's only response would have been like, "I'm an American. We don't care about gay people," but like we know that's not true. So like, what could
untrue.
Hotch have said that would have been like, "You should have told me anyway because we're the police"? Like, yeah, I'm glad they didn't have Hotch have a comeback to that.
It's just
So it's so weird.
such a weird setup that they had for this episode.
Also, like everyone knows this dude is gay, and yet somehow they're like, we can't out him, even though he's just like continuously outed throughout the episode. They're like, but we can't out him though. Like, like what do the
Weird.
neighbors think this fight is about? You know?
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. So then they're like, okay, well, give us all your files. And the guy is like, our police don't know how to handle this. They're going to be missing basic details. And Hotch is like, it doesn't matter. Like, we need to rule out because like this could have been a crime of passion and not related to the other ones. So like, we need to rule that out at least. This is where we find out that Miguel would be killed if he went to a Mexican prison, and that's why he's still like in the cell at the police station. And then they're like, okay, we'll ask his sister to get him to talk. Um, and they're asking about the fight, and the sister's like, I'm not going to talk to you. And then Gideon's like, we know he's gay and that he could be killed if he goes to prison. Like, don't you want to protect him? And then the sister is like, his friend, Roberto, saw the fight with the mother, but like she wasn't going to say anything because she didn't want to out him because of the shame and the fear. And like, family is everything.
Hmm.
Um, and so they leave, and Ella's like, I still think the sister is hiding something, but like whatever. She's not hiding anything else.
Yeah, that never comes back up
No,
again
yeah.
ever.
So then we learn that before Roberto and Miguel were together, Roberto had a wife. So they're like, okay, he's bisexual, and if he's bisexual, that means he can kill women.
He can get around that damage threshold that women have against gay men, apparently.
Yeah. So they go to talk to him. He's like a taxi driver, and they're like, come on, let's go for a walk. There's some terrible ADR here.
Oh yeah.
His mouth is moving, and the words are literally not in line
It's
with his
really
mouth
bad.
movements. It was
It's
literally
really
like
bad.
it was almost like they had the guy speak Spanish and then they recorded over in English. Like it was like terrible.
Also,
Um
they were like, let's take a walk, and then walked 5 feet away from his
they
taxi.
just they were like, yeah, let's take a walk, and then started talking immediately as soon as they took their first step. Like they didn't go anywhere before they started talking. Mm-mm-mm. So then you find out that Miguel's mother was accepting, but his uncle wasn't. And like the reason he was there was because Miguel was drunk and he was like worried
Hmm.
that Miguel would just look stupid. And he did see a woman there that he didn't recognize. He figured she was like a social worker, 40s, 50s, heavy set. Um, and this is when Navarro tells us that like social workers come from the city all the time to help to like let these small town women know of their rights and to know what help they can get because of like the outreach programs. And that makes sense as to why there was tamarind water because it was a woman. Again, this
Again,
whole thing, it just reminds me of the like, dude, you're drinking a Cosmo? Are you gay? Like, that's a
fellas, is it gay to
girly
drink
drink.
water?
Hey fellas, is it gay to drink fruit juice? Um,
Fellas, is it gay to eat fruits and vegetables every day? I think it's kind of gay to fucking
Is it gay to
properly.
brush your teeth? Like,
What else are you gonna be fucking doing with your mouth? Sucking dick? Come on. Don't always
oh, I
brush your
don't
fucking
wipe when I
teeth.
go to the bathroom. I'm not gay. Jesus. No offense to straight men, but like, what the fuck?
No offense to straight men, but why do you say the things that you do? You
No
know?
offense to
Think
like
about
cis het
that.
men, but like, reevaluate your life.
Think
Um,
about yourself before you come to talk to
yeah.
me. Think about
Let
yourself
me
first.
Yeah. I did like this moment where Derek is like super chill about this dude being gay. Derek is like, yeah, I didn't think, Roberto was guilty. Like, he didn't blame his boyfriend, and like a guilty guy would have. He was just super, just like, yeah, that was his boyfriend. Like, super, like, nice. And I was like, okay, Derek, I see you. I see you,
Refreshing
Derek.
ally in
Yeah.
this episode, which thus
Refreshing
far has
ally.
been filled with just weirdly passive aggressive
Yeah.
statements about homosexuality. But Derek's just like, yeah, that was his boyfriend. He didn't blame him. So,
Yeah,
like,
Derek's
pop a
like he
chill.
didn't blame his boyfriend, and he could have, and he didn't. And then Gideon goes, check his alibi anyway. Check out his records. I don't trust the guy. It's like, oh, right, Gideon.
Gideon, we get
Okay.
it. You're homophobic.
Yeah.
God, I hate
And then
Gideon
then
so much.
Penelope calls and speaks like really bad Spanish, and she's like, "Sorry, I took French in high school." And this is where Morgan is like, "Your last name is Garcia," and Penelope says, "It's my stepfather's name."
Also, if
Uh huh.
she took French in high school, you would still be able to pronounce Spanish a little bit better than you did, sweetheart.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
She said the most basic Spanish shit and was like,
Yeah.
in the most white person way. And like,
Hola, mis amigos.
it's just like,
Yeah.
if you speak one of those romance languages,
Yeah.
it's easier to pick up your mouth into the shape of another one.
Any foreign language, I pretend like it's Spanish, and I just treat it like it's Spanish. And hey, it served me well so far.
Hey, it works. But like,
Yeah.
especially French and Spanish, French, Spanish, and Italian all sort of have that same open,
Yeah.
flowy structure to
Yeah.
them, which is not, that's probably not the correct way to refer to it as, but
Rhythmic.
rhythmic is a better way to refer to it as. Thank you. But like, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, she's close enough with her stepfather to have taken his last name.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Maybe you
something
know
that
just
I
like a little bit. Maybe you just heard it once in your life.
also like. The implication is that her stepfather does speak Spanish, so she's like heard it before in her life.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I did make a note that Rita's like playing with the fan, and I did like that he's just standing there like, I'm gonna play with this fan that's directly in front of me. I was like, same, bud.
It's like fidgety kid. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah. Okay, so then the DNA comes back, and it's a man. There were two, so the two cups, one was a man, one was a woman. And then Rita's like, wait a minute, what if she thought it was a woman? And basically, it's like, it's a common ruse with old lady killers to dress like a woman because no one expects a woman to be a killer. So now we know it's a crossdresser. So then, the profile, they give the profile, and it's that somebody who went from a peeping tom to a rapist to a killer, and they don't quite know the connection between all the women yet. But that like this person's been doing it for like years, and he's like had a lot of planning. Um, they have had a lot of planning, and then they're like, okay, we need to re-interview all the witnesses, and we need to talk to sex criminals. And then
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get there. Oh, we'll get there. So then we learn there's a new body. It was a woman. She was 67, stabbed in the neck and genitals, and they took her necklace from the body, which is new. And we learned that this person went from killing one old woman every 9 weeks to killing two women in 3 days. So it's like a crazy escalation. Elle goes to talk to the daughter, and she asks about the necklace, and the daughter is like, it was my necklace. She gave it to me for my birthday, but she doesn't have any nice jewelry, so I lent it to her for the holiday. So really, he took the daughter's necklace, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we learn there's a disturbance at the police station. Okay.
There's a whole lot here.
As a trans person,
Mm-hmm.
I hated this.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's get through it. Quick
let's get through it.
trigger warning for that,
Yeah,
because it's a roughie, guys.
it's a rough one.
So we get there, and a bunch of trans women, or I guess cross dressers, are being brought into the station, and that Varquez, Vasquez, whatever this guy's name is, the other cop, is like, "What? You
Borges.
told me to, Varquez? You told me to bring in the sex criminals." And they're literally just like trans women and cross dressers. We don't see any of their faces. They're literally walked from the van to the police station, and then we never see them again.
It is sort of implied that these ladies are sex workers,
Mm.
and
Oh, I thought it was just like it's illegal for the cross dressing.
I think that was part of it, but I also think more of it was that they were implying that they were sex workers.
Sure. I can see that.
Because they try and do that a few other times in this series.
Mm-hmm. So
So,
then, yeah,
not good.
not good.
Not good.
So then Maria Sanchez shows up again. The district attorney general shows up, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on? You're making us look like a joke." Which, you know,
She's not wrong.
yeah. And she's basically like, "You're uninvited. Goodbye," and she leaves. And then JJ shows up again.
And then
She's been
JJ
gone.
shows up again.
She shows up again in her cute little suit. I'm pretty sure she's wearing her Tobias Henkel button down,
I'm
which did
sorry, I
give
don't
me some
have as
feelings.
a photographic memory of JJ's
JJ's
outfits as you
outfit.
do. I'm sorry.
Leave me alone. She's back. She's upset. Basically, um, Navarro is like, "What the fuck? I told you, like, we said that, like, you know, the killer could be a man dressing as a woman. We didn't tell you to round up the transvestites." So we need to take a moment to talk about this.
Yeah, let's talk.
So the way we talk about trans people is very recent. Transgender
Yes.
is
Mm-hmm.
incredibly recent. I mean, we were putting trans with the asterisk on it 5 years ago.
Yes.
And if you don't know, trans with the asterisk was short for transgender, transvestite, transsexual, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the original, they used transsexual in this show, not this episode I don't think, but in the show, basically, like, transgender was not really a word until, well, it wasn't common until recently. It
Yeah.
used to be that transvestites, like Eddie Izzard, who has come out as transgender since, but Eddie Izzard was a transvestite. Eddie Izzard was a straight man who dressed like a woman, and that was what a transvestite was, right? It was a cis het man who liked to enjoy wearing women's clothing. That was a transvestite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, so like drag queen, and I guess drag queens are technically, I guess, transvestites. They're gay men usually, but they would go under the category kind of transvestite. And then what we called transgender was transsexual, meaning, I don't know, trans women, basically. But we would
Yeah.
call them transsexual, because the emphasis was kind of, the idea of it, I guess, was gay men who, because of their sexual preference, or because of their sexual identity, as we would say now, felt the need to dress as a woman. They were men who were attracted to men, and therefore, like we were talking about earlier, aligned themselves with women, and that was a transsexual. And now we have a much more nuanced understanding of being transgender, and we don't really use the term transvestite anymore, unless it's like, drag queens or transgender people calling themselves transvestites. Um,
Yes.
and we kind of don't really at all call each other transsexual. That's kind of gone because it has a very incredibly negative,
Mm-hmm.
derogatory, implication. But like, and I'm going to use, the T word slur here, but like tranny is short for transsexual, not for transgender, and so that's why trans had an asterisk until what, 2014, we were using transphonastric because it included those other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And now we just kind of use transgender, or you're just a drag queen, drag king. If
Yeah.
you cross dress without, without being trans, you're just kind of a drag queen or king.
Yeah, and I
And
think it is
then,
also
yeah,
important to remember that this episode came out in April of 2006. So
rough
if you're
times.
like, wow, this language sounds outdated, it's because it
Yeah.
is.
And even like Gideon says, he goes, men dressing like women, it's a manifestation of sexual preference, it's a lifestyle. And I think, I mean, again, until recently, we were saying the gay lifestyle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were calling being gay, being trans, a lifestyle choice. I'm choosing to live as a gay person. I'm choosing to live as a man or as a woman. And we don't really call it a lifestyle anymore. The homosexual lifestyle, the queer lifestyle,
Yeah.
unless it's at least in the queer community, a joke.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't really call it. It's not a lifestyle choice. You know, it's just
Mm-hmm.
who I am as a person, and I'm a person, and I have a life, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it's one of those things where like criminal minds thought or thought they were being, or for the time were being, supportive of trans people, but also like it's not good language. Like what Gideon is saying is being trans or cross dressing is not deviant behavior,
Yeah.
is what he's trying to say. Like, cross dressing is not the sign of a mental illness. It's not the sign of a violent person. It's just the way somebody is choosing to live.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as a very general sentiment,
Is
cool.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay. Um you could be arresting us, right?
Yeah. The the folks they are parading into the police station, by the way, are on IMDb.
Yeah.
Their official sort of like title in the episode
Uh-huh.
is Mexican prostitute.
Huh.
So that's where I kind of got the fact that they were being paraded in here
They were
as
trans sex workers.
sex workers and not just because they were dressing like women.
Ah.
Also, I think of note here, they're the ones that are credited on IMDb are
Mhm.
uh played by men,
Wow.
by cis men, as far as I can tell from their IMDb bios and
Uh-huh.
looking at their Twitter. So
Uh-huh.
bad.
But I think one thing they didn't explore in this episode that would have been interesting is the fact that this killer, for all of their cross dressing, is straight.
Yeah,
And that is something, it was like as soon as they were a cross dresser, we did not care if they were gay or straight anymore.
they
And I
didn't care about
think,
the damage reductions between sexualities anymore.
freaks, yeah, we didn't care who was immune to what. I just think that it's like, and we'll get to it when we start talking about the rape victims, but I don't appreciate that they just fucking dropped that. Like the whole thing had been like, is he gay? Oh no, he's a cross dresser. As if it were like the same.
Yeah, they sort of just drop it in the way that like they don't want to deal with the end of that storyline anymore, so they just want you to equate gay equal crossdresser equal bad.
Yeah, and it's like we didn't get like a, oh, so they're a lesbian, or we didn't get like an, so they're straight but they're dressing like a woman. We just didn't get any sort of like nuance that gender identity or gender presentation is different from sexual orientation at all.
Yes, and I think that is definitely a 2006. This show
I was
was
just
made
gonna
in
say,
2006.
yeah.
Um
Hmm.
widely it gender presentation and gender identities were not as widely explored as publicly as they were in 2006.
I mean,
We've
2006, like,
evolved a lot of new language and a lot of, I think, more respectful language currently.
yes.
Um and I feel like 2006 was just one of it was just one of those things where like they didn't want to, number one, do their homework. Number
Right.
two, they didn't want to like dig into that too much, and number three, they just didn't really give a shit, right? Like they
Right.
didn't
But I mean,
care.
I think it's interesting because, like, the L word started in 2005, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure. And even in, like, the L word, which is in theory all about queer women and queer people, they treated trans people like dog shit.
Yeah, the L word actually started in 2004, by the way.
Okay. But it was, in the midst of it.
Yeah.
But they treat trans people in that show like dog shit, you know? So it's like in 2021, this episode is a piece of shit.
Uh-huh.
In 2006, Gideon saying, "Hey, like, cross-dressing is not a psychology of behavior. It's a lifestyle. It's legitimate." That was kind of something, you
Yeah.
know?
In a weird way it
Unfortunately,
was.
unfortunately, Criminal Minds treating trans people with any modicum of respect.
Was
So
insane
it's
in
like,
2006.
yeah, so it's like I do wanna say this is shitty as hell because it is, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
terrible,
garbage.
you know? But, yeah, it could have been worse. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I think I think one of the problems too is we never learn why this person is cross-dressing,
Uh-huh.
because even when he was or they were raping, they were cross-dressing, and
Yeah.
that they never go into the why of it.
They also, spoiler alert for the end of this episode, they never talk about the mother skeleton at all.
Oh, they
And
never
I just,
talk about
I
the
want
mother
to
skeleton.
know. I want to know so
God, you're
bad.
so right. You are so right. They turn that chair around and Ella's like, "Uh-oh." And Derek walks in and goes, "We were a little late." And then they do
Never
not
talk
mention it
about it.
again. You're
Like,
so right.
what the fuck?
Okay, we gotta keep going.
We have
We're
to keep
almost
going.
done.
We've been
We're almost
recording for
done.
2 episodes. No, we're not. We're like halfway through this episode.
I've only got 2 pages of notes left, so.
Oh, fuck yeah, let's go.
Okay. So this is where, oh my god, I cringed so hard at the way they talk about rape in this episode. Not even
Yeah.
cringe. I was upset about the way they talked about rape in this episode. So the main guy is like, yeah, a bunch of rapes aren't reported in Mexico because it's usually done by a person in power, like a family member or even a police officer.
He straight up
He's
just admits that
he
it's law enforcement.
he straight up says that, and the other cop is like, yeah,
There's no emotion from the other police officer.
none. And then later, Elle is like, I wrote it down because I was so mad. Elle says, "What can the police do if, when a crime is committed, no one comes forward?" Hey, bestie Elle, what do you do if a fucking police officer rapes you? Are you supposed to be like, actually, I do want to like be a proponent of people coming forward. So like, if I could just give you a report about how you, specifically you, actually you, the person, just raped me, if you could just write that down in your little notebook, like, excuse me. I just I There are so many reasons people don't come forward to report rapes. So many reasons. And a lot of them have to do with the fact that they come from people in power. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not just like the response to that isn't like, yeah, of course they're not going to come forward. It was people in power. The response should be like, we should make it so that it is not world ending to report a person in power, you know?
Yeah,
I just, okay. Yeah.
bad.
Great, wonderful, terrible, terrible. So
Terrible.
JJ goes, we should do a press conference. And the guy's like, yeah, we will. So JJ's like, you have to be forceful but respectful. We need to talk about how the criminal can be stopped. Like, don't even mention the killer. We're talking about rapists because we want people to come forward. We want women to be like, yes, I was raped. We're not trying to be like, did the guy who raped you seem like a killer? We want all of the reports to come forward, because this is going to help us learn why he transitioned from raping to killing, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can catch him like from that information. And Derek talks about possible stressors, and like how we should look for women who reported rape before the first killing. Like, if we can figure out like who the last one was, we can maybe figure out the stressor. So JJ says like we want to have a press conference, but we should also interview directly. Like, do you have any police officers, female police officers, so women are more comfortable? And this is when the guy is like, yeah, we don't have any female police officers. He calls JJ boss. JJ goes,
I
do you
love
have
that
it?
he constantly calls all the ladies like boss.
Yeah,
I love that actually. I think that's
yeah.
really funny.
JJ goes, you should have your female police officers do this. And he goes, we don't have any female police officers. Boss? I was like, you cannot think of a single respectful. No, there's no ma'am.
Nope, just boss.
There's no
Nothing but
agent.
boss, baby. Nothing
Nothing
but
but boss.
boss.
I too would look at JJ and say, hell yeah, boss.
Yeah,
That just
boss.
like made
Like,
me
come
laugh.
on. It's kind
Yeah,
of funny though.
yeah. Um. So then Ella's like, you do now. So then it just cuts. We do not see the the press conference. We do not see any of these interviews. It just cuts to Elle walking out of her building saying, man, I've been speaking so much Spanish, I'm gonna forget how to speak English. And the cop says, you look Hispanic. And she says, my mother's Cuban. And he's like, all right, Cubanita, like, you got this. And I was like, this is how we learn Elle's cultural backstory. Is Elle being like, man, I've been speaking a lot of Spanish, and him saying, you look like you speak Spanish, and her saying, I do. Like, that's how we learn Elle's backstory. Okay. Like, what? Like, I just also, okay. Here's the thing. I am very, very grateful for some Cuban representation because that shit doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But Elle is from New York. She should be Puerto Rican. She should be Dominican. Why is she from the Bronx and Cuban? I don't know what it is with television, with Hollywood refusing to make Cubans from Miami. Like One Day at a Time is about a Cuban family and they live in LA. They live in LA. Make them Mexican. I just heard like I'm here for the Cuban rep, but like let a fucking Cuban be from Miami. I don't understand. Like, why are we so afraid to make Cubans from Miami? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I just It's
I
like one
don't
of
know.
those things where I'm like, God, I wish I could see myself on TV. But I know that what I'm asking for is to see another white person on television. But it's like I have never seen a Hispanic person like me on television. They just don't exist.
Yeah.
The closest I've come is like Brooklyn 99, the one who's like hella anal. What's her
Oh,
face?
Santiago?
Yeah, she's the closest. But I'm pretty sure the actress is Cuban, but the character is Puerto Rican. So again, who cares? Hispanics, am I right? Mix
You
and
can
match.
interchangeable, I
Don't
guess.
even have to be Hispanic. Let's keep casting Italians. I hate that. I hate that.
I'm aware that you hate that, and I get it. I do too.
I just, I mean, West Side Story, am I right? Rita Moreno, Puerto Rican. Everyone else, Italian and brown face. Love it. We're still
Eh,
doing that. When was that
still
movie made? The
doing it.
fucking like 30s?
Yeah.
Here we are. Fucking Supergirl. What's her face?
Oh yeah.
Maggie Danvers. We love to cast Italians as Hispanic women. Let's keep doing it. Who cares? Am I right? Like, who cares? That's sarcasm.
I
I
think
care
we
very
could all tell
much.
that that was sarcasm, James. I think we could all tell.
I did. I just had to tone tag it.
Clarify.
All right. We find out a woman has called the station with information. She's very close by. So they go. And the woman is like, "Do you care? Do you even care?" And I was like, "You called the police station." Like, I
You're
get
the
it.
one
Like, I
who
do
called.
get it. But, like, you did call the police station, though. So Elle sends the guy cop away. And this is where she says, like, what can the police do if no one comes forward? The woman is like, I called him the guy was a dog and a coward. Like, he came at me from behind and started raping me. And then I hit him and he was bleeding. But then he was wearing a dress. So I called him a pathetic woman. And she starts making fun of him for wearing a dress. That happened about 2 years ago. Also, El calls her Milagros, and I was like, that's not her name. Milagros stands for miracle. It translates directly to miracle. So when El calls her that, I was like, El, why are you calling this woman that? Like, I get it, like it's cool, but like whatever. But then no, her name is Milagros.
Yeah.
Um, I have a cousin, Millie, which is short for Milagros. It's a common Hispanic name. Okay, cut to the station, and then El says she claims it happened 2 years ago. And it was like, you have to come forward, you have to report it. Anyway, she's claiming it happened 2 years ago. I was like, wow,
They really.
you really flipped on a dime there, huh,
Yeah,
Elle? It did.
exactly. You really just flip flopped there, huh, babes?
It could have been she said it happened 2 years ago. It happened 2 years ago. She claims
She
allegedly
claims.
it happened to like. All right. So then they were like, oh, it must have happened just before the stressor. And then they were like, no, she probably was the stressor because she made him impotent. So like every time he tries to have sex, he can only hear her insulting him. And so he started raping older women because he thought it'd be easier, but then he like can't even rape older women again with that like you don't have it in you narrative.
Yeah.
I
It's
just again it's like the show clearly has sympathy for rape victims. The characters are very much on the rape victim side, but still the way they talk about it, like it is not this woman's fault that he began killing people. At
also like
this,
she did not make him impotent.
no, she did not ask to be raped. She did not ruin him for sex. She did not make him start killing older women. You know,
Like just the way that they were like, "Oh yeah, she made him impotent because now every time he tries to
he
get it on, he
hears her
hears her
insults.
laughing." It's like, "Okay, but like she did not do that.
No,
She just
yeah,
it's a wild like victim blamey way of speaking and like I don't know, the way that they talk about sexual violence in this episode is bad. And
yeah.
it's just so confusing cuz they want to be like, yeah, we can help victims of sexual violence, but then also they're like, yeah, but also if this victim of sexual violence had not laughed in this guy's face, he wouldn't have murdered people. It's just a weird, like,
They're
what are you doing
they're
here? What's going on?
they're yeah, this episode's just like a laundry list of bad, 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 bad.
Uh
Like
huh.
like they never explain why he's wearing women's clothing. Like we know, like Reed says it's a ruse for killing old ladies, but then we learn that he was already wearing a dress when he was raping women, and that and also she saw that he was wearing a dress and was so like you're a man
In a
wearing a
dress?
dress? That's pathetic. What fucking kind of man are you? Like, that's also something that should have been addressed. Not in any sort of like victim blaming way, but like, what are the deep seated transphobic, gender stereotyping nonsense bullshit that like brought that out? Like, I would like
Yeah.
to know, like, why is he wearing a dress? Why was that her first response? Why did that make him impotent? Like there was like such room here for like talking about the harm that gender stereotypes do, that rigid gender roles do, and we haven't even gotten to how they, quotation marks, solve it,
Yeah.
how it ends. Like, there's just a lot here that I don't like any of it. I don't like any of it.
It's just so weird because it feels like this episode is so long but so short because they talk about nothing for so long, you know?
It's like they hint at talking about things, and then they just like don't.
It's like, anyway, we'll do our conversation about gender identity later, and then later never
And
happens.
then later in the
And
round,
you're
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
can we?
So then, yeah. So then Milagros comes into the police precinct with six other women, and um, she's like, "We may not talk to you, but we talk to each other." Which, like, yeah,
So true,
cool.
class solidarity.
Class, gender
So
solidarity, whatever,
true,
whatever. So then
ladies.
it cuts to like the. I hate like the man putting on lipstick. This person, them putting on lipstick, and then they go, "Hola," in like a feminine voice,
Hmm.
and then smash the mirror. And then you see them like approaching a woman from behind, and like petting her head while she watches TV. And I wrote in parentheses, "dead?" question mark. It's like,
Yeah,
I was like, is she gonna be dead? She's gonna be dead.
she's
Like,
gonna be dead. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so then Gideon's like watching everyone take statements from the six women, and then we
The way
learn.
Gideon is, he just like leers at these people. It's
I hate
fucking
it.
weird. It's
He's
fucking weird. Sure, he's
he's
having one of his quote unquote genius moments, but it's also fucking weird. Don't
you know
stare
what?
at people like that, Gideon, especially when they're giving like
Yeah,
statements about sexual assault. Like, don't just fucking stare at people, you fucking weirdo.
it made me think about how much we like talk shit about like the mind palace moments when everything is all floaty, but it does make the staring less weird. Like, I get that he's
No,
having a
it
mind
doesn't.
palace moment. No, but like in like for us watching, like it doesn't make the
Yeah.
fact that he's staring weird. But like if they had things like this and then that, I would be like, okay, he's thinking. And instead, it's just like him being like, huh, huh.
He
Like,
just fucking leers at these people. And it's just so weird.
yeah.
Stop looking at them, old man.
Get your eyes off of them.
God. Go put
Yeah.
your glasses on. Read a
Mhm.
book or some shit. Jesus. It's
Yeah.
just fucking weird.
Yeah. So after the six women talk, we get the guy's process. He goes up to them in the street. They go up to the women in the street. They put a knife to their back. They take them out to the desert. And then they kiss their neck while they're having sex. And then JJ's face. Then the guy asks, "How did I do?" JJ's face is like, she cannot be more grossed out by
Yeah.
this whole thing.
And
How did I
honestly, so
do?
true. Me
Honestly,
too,
so true.
girl.
Yeah.
Me too.
So then they start describing them as like passive and non-athletic. He probably fantasizes that they're, their girlfriend. They're dissuaded by screaming, and they most likely live or work nearby to where the women live or work. There was a cute, I guess, Gideon and Reed moment where Reed is like, there's like two things that these kind of killers do. Like, they're probably non-athletic, they fantasize about relationships, and then they're dissuaded by screaming and fighting. And Gideon goes, "Is that the only thing?" And Reed goes, "Oh no, there is one more." And then they get interrupted by Navarro being like, three of these women worked in the same factory. And then Reed goes, "They live or work nearby." And I just like, that was cute. Gideon being like, "Are you sure that's everything?" And Reed like, "Oh no, you're right. There is one more thing. I remember."
Yeah.
"Thanks, Papa. I remember." Yeah. So they go to the factory. There's a female owner who's like very protective of women, and she's like,
She's
"I
so
would
fun,
never."
by the way.
Oh, love her. She's like, "I would never do anything. I would never like, let any guy harass these women." And they're like, "Probably someone shy at work, like peeping Tom in the dressing rooms." And she's like, "No." So they ask like, "How many male employees do you have?" And she says like over 50. So they start going through all the files. And Ella's like, she wasn't kidding. Like, these people, they have one citation for harassment, and then if it happens again, they're fired. And Hotch says something like, "Oh, she's like super tough." And Ella's like, "Oh, Hotch, are you afraid of a woman?" Which is like, Elle, shut up. But then Derek goes, I'm afraid of her.
Yeah,
And I
I
was like,
like that
yeah,
all of the guys are like, "Oh no, I wouldn't fuck with her. I'm
yeah.
not about to fuck with her."
Ella's like, ha ha ha, you afraid of a woman? And they're like, I'm afraid of scary people. And she's scary. Like it was like
It's
Ella
also,
like
I don't know, it also
yeah,
sometimes comes down to that thing where like, you know when there's like a woman who, you know when there's like a woman in power who people think are bitchy, but like she's only bitchy to men, and if you were ever to like directly approach her and be nice, she would be wonderful to you.
yeah.
But then the
Mhm.
moment you turn around or the moment a man makes a comment out of line, she's like, "You're fucking dead." Like that's what
Fucking
it
dead
feels
to
like
me.
to me. You know, it feels
Yeah.
like one of those high-powered business bitches whom I
Yeah.
adore, who just like is very sweet to you, but then the
Yeah.
moment you step out of line, she's like, "No, fuck this. I'm not taking
And
this."
it's like the two women in power that we see, this factory owner and Maria Sanchez, are both like quote unquote scary bitches when really they're just like strong women who have had to fight men their whole lives to get to where they are. And
Yeah,
I
they just
don't
like,
like that those are conflated. Like
mm-hmm.
if you're living in a male dominated world, working in a male dominated field, and you've been
As
through
pretty
some
much all
shit,
of us are.
right? And you've been through some shit, like you become tough as nails. You have to be. And I don't like when that is then seen by men or other women as being a bitch. Like, no, like I had to be like this to get this job. And I have to be like this to keep this job.
And also, it's
You
just,
know? Yeah.
I don't know. It's also just like they seem to have standards on how they are treated and how people around them are treated, and for
Yes.
some reason that makes them bitches. Which,
Yeah.
like, hey gang, if you know how you should be treated and you don't have to accept anything less, people are gonna think you're a bitch for that. But like, also, you're right. Don't fucking. You're
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah. Like you're good.
it's just so weird to me that they're like, oh, but you know, she's a bitch
Yeah.
because she doesn't let me get away with sexist shit.
Also
Good.
like women don't have to be likable.
We don't have to be nice to you. That's just it. I don't have to be nice
Yeah,
to you. Period.
that's like the thing. It's like women are only like tolerable if they're nice. Like I have to like this woman in power or she shouldn't be in power, you know? And it's just like no. Like no, she has to be good at her job and that's it. You don't have to be able to be best friends, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, there's only one person who worked there with a sex crime, and it wasn't the right person. So they're like, okay, we need to like narrow the profile. And this is when the guy is like, oh, this killer definitely like lacks machismo. Like he doesn't have the confidence that Mexican men have. And then, okay, Elle's comment here made me be like, baby girl, I'm so sorry. These are the men you've slept with. Elle says, men with confidence do not ask if they are doing well. They assume they are doing well in bed and at work.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm confident in bed. I still ask if she's enjoying it. I still
Yeah.
ask if I'm doing a good job. Part of being well in bed is checking in with your partner. I'm confident because I know that I am taking my partner into consideration. I just don't like this. Like, if a man is confident in bed, he's never going to ask if it's going well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sorry, Elle. Like,
Yeah, Elle, I'm really sorry you've been having apparently subpar sex this whole time. I'm really sorry,
Jesus.
girl.
Elle speaking from experience. Ella's like, I put on a strap and then I do not give a shit. Like, Ella's like, I do not
Honestly,
ask
so
how it's
true.
going. I do not ask how I did. I know I did well. Yeah. But as soon as Elle says in bed and at work, she and Hachik make eye contact and they go back to the woman. And Ella's like, this guy would like, he would need to know how he was doing. He would probably ask, like, how am I doing? And the woman's like, how am I doing? Oh, Pablo Vargas. He's been on vacation for 4 days. And they were like, oh, since Lupe was killed. And the woman is like,
And also,
um,
she mentioned something that I don't think ever like comes up, but it is fun to note is they mention that She mentions that he works or he supervises the plus size women's department.
He's the floor manager for the plus size women's
And
department. Yeah.
so it's like, obviously, that's why earlier Roberto was like, yeah, like a heavier woman.
Oh my god, I
I
didn't even.
know.
I was just like, hell yeah, have a plus size women floor. Make those plus size clothes.
But also, that's why he
He
used plus
literally
size
works
clothes,
there.
because that's what he could get. Like,
Mm,
they never mention it, but that's a good point.
that is a good point. A good point. Okay. They go to his house. The windows are covered. The TV's on. Someone's inside. They break in. We see the woman from before from behind. Elle turns the chair around. She's like a dead person, and Elle's just like, oh. And then she's like, Derek! And he comes in like, are you alright? Are you okay? What's going on? And then he sees her and goes, oh, we were a little late. It's like, Derek is top tier this episode. The whole episode, like, he does get his like, sorry, why are we going to Mexico at the beginning? But the rest of the episode, he's like, hell yeah, some guys have boyfriends. And then he's like, I'm scared of women if they're scary. Like, and now he's like, aw, damn, she's really dead though. Like,
This woman that they turn around the chair to, can we talk about this? They
terrifying.
turn around this woman.
Terrifying.
It is a skeleton. There are
It is
no
a
bones. There is nothing
zombie.
but bones.
Full zombie.
Nothing but bones here, gang.
How long has that person been there? It's his
Nothing
mother,
but
right?
bones.
The implication is that it's their
The
mother.
implication is that it's mother, that it's this person's mother, and also that this mother is now wearing all of the necklaces that this person had stolen.
I put
and-
that it's souvenirs for mother.
Yes,
Is what Derek says.
she's super dead. Like, has
Super
been dead for like a long time.
Yeah.
Why?
Super
Why?
dead. Super.
They
Why
never
does-
talk about this again. Why is she super dead? How
Here are my
long has she
questions.
been dead?
Here are my questions for the episode.
Uh-huh.
Why does he cross dress?
Uh-huh.
Why is his mother dead? Why
Why did
how
he
long,
keep his mother in his home?
why did he keep his mother in his home for so long with the TV on so she can watch it? What? Why?
Why?
What? Who is this person? Like, here's yet another episode where I'm like, this person is 10 times cooler than anybody else in this episode. Who is this cross-dressing, dead mother having like person?
Who is this Norman Bates-esque motherfucker? What is going on here?
Their only line in this episode is "Hola," for smashing the mirror. Like, I want the episode to be about this person. I don't give a shit about how Mexico handles gay people. I want to know about this person.
This falls into the trap, though, of so long in this episode they were focusing on what the killer isn't, gay,
Right.
and
Right.
male, right? And so long they were focusing on those points, and they never paid attention to who the killer was, to the point where we receive no explanation for this dead
Nothing.
skeleton mother. There is no explanation for mommy skeleton here.
Why mommy skeleton? Why mommy skeleton?
Why mommy skeleton?
I just
What the fuck?
also this whole like only heterosexual men kill women because it's got a sexual component to it. But then they say like cross-dressing is like about your sexual preference. So like
Here's how I think it works if we're going with our dumb RPG idea, is that the cross-dressing supersedes whatever damage mitigation they get from gay people. I think the cross-dressing that enables you to kill anybody, because then you're too powerful. It's
that's
actually
true.
really
It's
OP.
like being bisexual.
Exactly. You can kill anybody. then.
Roberto was bisexual, so he could kill men and women.
He's
And-
overpowered as fuck. Yeah.
Right. And Pablo is a cross-dresser, so both a man and a woman, therefore both straight and gay at once.
Can kill anybody.
Can kill anybody. The bisexuals and the non-binary people can kill anybody. It's like a Venn diagram, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like can kill men, can kill women, and then in the center is bisexuals and non-binary people. And then at the top tier is me, the bisexual non-binary. I can kill I am God.
You can do no wrong. It's
I can
fine.
kill them all. Woo! Every Dia de los Muertos, I have a fashion show of my victims. So many are they, of all genders and sizes.
I just. Why did we not get any clarification on the mom skeleton?
What's the
Why?
logic? At first, it was like, okay, it's definitely a man, but gay, and then it's definitely a man, not gay, and then it's a man question mark, but definitely into women. It's like, yeah, okay, all right, hold on.
I
We
just.
got it.
It's
We
so
gotta
weird.
finish. We're so close. We have like half a page left. Okay, we go back to the station. We see the older women walking home from church. Evening mass, stalking. Great. Back at the station. How do we track? Why these victims? And then there's like a chalkboard with all these like names and dates. And they're like, what is this? And that police guy is like, oh, I made a chart, like they said, of all the rape victims. I made a chart, like
Which
she told
is
me
so.
to.
I love that this dude, while they were doing all that, he just kind of like took the time. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know they wanted a timeline of this, so I guess I'll just take this time to
I'm
write
just
one
like
out."
make a little chart. Just make a little chart.
I just think that's
Um,
fun.
Yeah. So then they realize that all of the murder victims, their maiden names are the same last names as the rape victims, and they put it together that he is killing the mothers of his rape victims. And
Yeah.
in order, like the order of them being raped, he is killing them. And then last is Milagros' mother. So they go to Milagros' mother's house. There is blood in the living room. There's blood in the hallway. They go outside. There is a woman question mark on the ground, and Derek is like, "You got me," and Ella's like, "I'm right behind you." And then they wheel them over, and it's a very bloody man in drag. And then all the rape victims and Milagros' mother come out of the trees, and she says he pretended to be a woman. Now he doesn't have to pretend. Why? They cut his fucking dick off.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Thoughts, 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 thoughts,
Thoughts.
thoughts, 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 thoughts.
You
Okay.
do not need a dick to be a man. Let's just
Yes.
start there.
Being a woman is not the lack of a dick. One.
Yes. Let's just start there.
Two. Two. Uh, uh, we don't trust the police, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of
Yeah.
we had to take the law into our own hands.
I get it.
And then there was like a women sticking together kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then there was like no consideration that maybe they were trans. Like that's like once they became a murderer, like didn't like matter. That didn't matter anymore.
Mhm.
There's like a we don't trust the justice system to like put him away.
Which I
Um,
get.
and then there's like we're not gonna kill him. We're just gonna cut his dick off because the dick is the source of our trauma, not the person to whom it was connected. Which is
I
kind of
also
like
though that dude was so bloody, I'm I would be shocked if he survived. He was very
oh,
bloody.
I mean, you
All
cut
of
his
them were
fucking dick
holding like
off.
baseball bats and
Oh,
like
that dude definitely died.
okay.
But like they didn't just like stab him. They were like, no, we're gonna cut his fucking dick off.
Yeah.
Which was like, okay. And then they go back to the police precinct and Maria Sanchez is talking to them and Gideon's like, are you gonna charge them? And she says, for what? They were defending their homes.
Well,
And I Spanish.
she says it in Spanish. Yeah, so the team
Right.
doesn't know what she said besides L.
Well, she says like no, they were defending their homes, and then we get the Mexican proverb: "The house does not rest upon the ground, but on women." So I guess the implication is that their bodies were their homes. So by killing this man, they're like protecting their bodies, but also I understand wanting death for your rapist. Like I get that, but at the same time, like you're not any less clean, pure, whatever, whatever for having been raped. Like it doesn't make you less of a person. I just
Hmm.
like the like desecrating your home, aka your body, kind of like I
Yeah,
just
that feels very.
I mean, I get it. Like I get it. Like I like you
Also, he
have
did
been
murder a bunch of your moms. So, like, I
yeah.
get it.
Like I get that. Like
I
I get it.
understand. You
Like I
probably had more right than
understand.
anybody else to kill this dude.
Yes, 100%, of course. At the same time, it's like I don't
Weirdly
know.
Puritan message here at the end.
Yeah, it's the weird like approval of murder because like vigilante. Like I don't know.
It
Like I
feels
get it. Like
weird to
I would,
have another sort of like vigilante ending so soon after a real reign
yeah.
where they really
But also like
tried to come down in the middle on vigilanteism, you know?
it wasn't like framed as vigilante.
Which
It
is
was
also
framed
weird.
as like vengeance isn't even the right word. It was framed as justice.
Yeah.
Women in, according to the show, women in Mexican society do not have any power. But they took the power by killing the man who assaulted them. It's supposed to be like a women helping women moment because Maria Sanchez doesn't charge them with anything, so
Y-
it's supposed to be like a this trauma brought a community closer together, but like
And
there's going to be no substantial change. Men are gonna keep raping. Men are
mhm.
gonna the police didn't have to do anything,
Yeah.
like it's just like now from now on in this one town of Mexico, if a guy rapes you, all the girls gather and cut his dick off. Like
It's such a weird non note to end this episode on.
I thought this episode was gonna end with Hotch going back to Haley, and it just doesn't. Hotch just does never faces his wife again about this moment.
Yeah. Which is super fucking strange, actually, because it would have made a really good bookend to this episode to have Hodge go back to his wife.
His wife, the house is not, on the ground, but on a woman. I really like I heard that quote and I was like, oh, we're gonna go back to Hotch's house and see Haley has like waited up for him or something. Like I thought it was gonna like bookend with Haley doing something wifey, which wouldn't have been great, but like would have bookended their message well. But they didn't. Fuck Haley. I I love Haley. Haley Hotchner. Justice for Haley Hotchner,
Justice
honestly.
for Haley Hotchner, because this would have been a great episode for them to visit her at the end of it, too.
Like, what if it ended with Hotch showing up with like takeout from her favorite restaurant as like an apology to be like, I know how much work you put into like keeping the family together and taking care of my son while I run off to do my job. Like, here's a token of my appreciation. Like he could have learned to value his wife more from
Yeah.
this. And just no, nothing came from it.
It's so.
I give this episode a 0.
A zero again.
Yeah.
Our second zero ep.
Was my first from the tribe?
Uh huh. Of
Yeah, this
course.
is yes, and this is my next 0. This is my very personal attack of an episode.
I. I'm gonna go in solidarity with your zero.
Thank you.
I'll go in solidarity with you. They did say the name of the episode in the episode. Did they say Wheels Up? No, Gideon just said
No.
call her from the car, right?
Call her from the car.
Will not forgive him for that one. There's a reason why Gideon is divorced, and it's that kind of shit. There's a
Gideon
reason why
literally is
Gideon
like
doesn't talk to
family,
his
family,
son.
family, family, family. You should never get divorced. You need to be there for your family. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, fuck your wife. Let's go. I don't give a shit that it's your birthday. Also, Hotch's birthday never comes up again.
Yeah, literally. Get that man a cupcake for fuck's sake. God
I
damn.
mean,
Next episode of Wheels Up, we're going to be looking at season 1, episode 20, Charm and Harm. A fun ep title, I gotta
yeah.
say.
What's it about? Which one is this?
Charm and Harm is about it's a Carmelian, why did I say it like that? Chameleon.
Carmelian.
We've been talking for 2.5 hours. Let me live. This is about a chameleon serial killer across the southeastern United States.
Southeastern.
Yes, that's what they say.
Like Georgia?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They go a few
Hmm.
different places, actually. I believe it
No
starts in like
memory.
Tampa, and then it goes
Oh,
Georgia,
fuck
and
yes.
then some other places. So
Fuck Tampa.
so true.
So true,
Fuck
bestie.
Florida.
Fuck Florida. I hate Florida.
Fuck Florida.
All my bitches hate Florida.
Sexy bitches hate Florida.
Honestly, sexy bitches hate Florida.
That's gonna be it for this episode of Wheels Up. Like I said, next time it's gonna be Charm and Harm. You can find us on anywhere on the internet at Wheels Up Pod. New episodes come out every other Wednesday. We're getting close to the end of season 1 here.
I know, I'm very nervous.
I know, I'm so nervous. Are
Honestly,
we gonna stick the landing of this season? Is Criminal Minds gonna stick the landing of season 1?
We know the answer to that.
We're gonna have some fucking talks. And you can find those talks here every other Wednesday for about 2 hours is our average episode length. I'm so sorry, honestly. Like, I try and cut it down as much as I can, but sometimes Jay and I just keep talking, and it's a lot. We have a lot of opinions about storytelling in Criminal Minds, as you can tell by the
Y'all
way
listen
that
to
we
it, though.
are. Yeah, you all listen to it, so, like, that's on you,
Well-
bud. You don't have to, but you do. That's on you, guys.
You do. Yeah.
That's it for this week. Jay, do you have an ending quote for me?
Evil is not a cultural phenomenon. It's a human one.
Deep ass fucking line from Jason Gideon.
Yeah, being racist.
Yeah.
Racist ass
Piece of shit.
Piece of shit, Jason Gideon. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.